just being around the Air Force and knowing a lot of people that didn't make it back, and then seeing the wounded vets come back from the Iraq War is enough to inspire everybody to get involved. My wife and myself had the job of meeting the incoming families and explain to them all the things that they're going to see free, and that the last to give them a little incentive to help defray the costs. The emotions got the best of me a few times when you present them with the additional Visa card to help them defray the cost. And they would start crying, and then they'd come up and give me a hug. And sometimes that's too much for me. Well, I was in the Air Force. I came in the Air Force in 1955. And when I was in Vietnam, the first tour, I was flying the F-105. And I was shot down, and I had completed 88 missions. And I was rescued. I was shot down in North Vietnam and was rescued by Air Force helicopters. And then they flew back through Laos and back to Thailand, where I was flying. And I had an injury in my shoulder, and so I went back to the States and had surgery. And then later on, much later, I went on my second tour to Vietnam as a staff officer in Saigon. Well, we were in a flight of 3 because one airplane had aborted. And so we were attacking Yen Bay Arsenal, and I dropped my bombs and was pulling out with a few G's on the airplane and very fast. And I had an unsafe gear warning light. Of course, the gear speed limit is 250, and I was going about 600. And so I pulled the throttle back, which was a mistake, because obviously the gear wasn't coming out. And when I retarded the throttle, I got hit in the right wing, and the hydraulic fluid was pumping out. It doesn't fly, doesn't steer without hydraulic fluid. So later the airplane started going into a right descending turn, and about 425 knots I ejected from the airplane and landed in North Vietnam, and the rescue started right away, and the A-1Es from South Vietnam, piloted by Americans, they come in to protect the down pilot, which they did. And I was also being capped by my flight mates who were still airborne, and they capped me as long as their fuel held out. And then later on, I was on the ground about 2 hours, and then the helicopters came in and lowered a tree penetrator, and I hopped on, and they lifted me up and exited the area in 2 helicopters. And then when you exit, the helicopters stay low, and they are protected by the A-1s as they exit. And they landed in Laos to get some gas, some JP4. And then they took off, and we went to Adorn, and then had evac to the Philippines, then to Japan, and then to Andrews. And the people in Custer are absolutely wonderful. I mean, if you go to their restaurant or you go wherever, and you're greeted, the vets are greeted, and I have to say, they're really loved by the state and the city.